right, guys, this man can be best described as the Woodstock of MMA, bringing groove back into the sport on a weekly basis on Morning Combat and with our dear friend Luke Thomas, or on his own YouTube channel, which you need to subscribe to immediately. Let's get ready to go tip to tip with the one and only BC Brian Campbell.
Yes.
Back on Submission Radio. How about this, man? It's been building. It's been building. Here we go. The release is here, bro.
The explosion has happened. It's here. Now we got to clean it up. I appreciate that intro. The Woodstock reference really touching the keys of my piano heart there. So I appreciate that. Thank you. This is no tips, but you know, virtually we can.
I know. As long as we don't cross swords. I was going to ask you, man. Speaking of cleanups, this press conference between Darren Till and Tommy Fury. What the hell? What is happening? What is going on? Darren Till obviously came out there. He's building potentially towards a Jake Paul fight if he beats Tommy Fury. What was your immediate reaction when you saw Darren just out there basically challenging everybody to a fight because he's a quote-unquote MMA fighter?
Well, dude, it's like Darren Till's, I don't want to say his value, his stock has taken such a hit by how his UFC and MMA career in general has sort of like dovetailed. But it makes you forget the personality at times that he is. And to see him in that fight, that when it was announced, I was like, okay, yeah. Do we need this? Okay, I'm into it. And then to see him go bar for bar with one of the most outlandish, absurd, and necessary characters that we have in modern combat sports, Big John Fury. I never expected Till to be able to outwit him, to stand up to him, to get water thrown at him and keep coming. And then I suddenly was like, gas station slop, this is my weakness. This is what I'm in for. I need this fight. I can't wait to see this fight. And suddenly I'm like, Darren Till, where have you been all my life? So this to me became a surprise cooker. It just became like, yeah, I'm going to make it appointment viewing. Wow. It really shocked me. And there is, in that lane, right, in that sort of Jake Paul lane, there is a certain level of stakes with this fight, what it can mean for both guys. And obviously, this could be Darren Till's real opportunity to really rebrand himself in a new lane. I mean, we all think like inevitably he's probably going to bare knuckle fight Mike Perry at some point, and he better. I'll be there for that one. But this whole idea of like, I just assumed Darren Till would one day eventually walk back into that octagon and give it one more try. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I don't even care to find out. I got to be there January 18th when these two fight on DAZN because they just woke up that side of my brain that can't avoid this type of stuff.
January 18th, man, my birthday. So nice little gift from DT right there. He did mention that, you know, what are you going to do? I'm going to kick you in the face if this doesn't work out. I'm going to kick you in the face. John, what are you going to do? I'm going to kick him in the face. And then I see now he's practicing the kicks on the mitts. Realistically though, like Tommy Fury, he's not the best of the best when it comes to boxing, but you know, he's a skilled guy and he's right there sort of in the middle when it comes to skill level. What are you anticipating from this fight? I guess the question is like, does Darren Till have the boxing ability to beat Tommy Fury here?
I don't think so. But the thing is, even though Tommy Fury is sort of the only one to best Jake Paul up to this point, I don't know if he's even as good as that performance. And what I mean by that is there was so much pressure on Tommy Fury to win that fight and not let down his half-brother Tyson, the heavyweight champion, and their wild-ass father, Big John Fury, the old Irish bare-knuckle champion. There was so much pressure to be in the ring that night who Tommy Fury had not been up to this point as a professional, which is quality or showing you really much of anything outside of really good looks and the connection to reality TV on Love Island that he has. I watched his fights when he was on a Jake Paul undercard in Cleveland. I've seen some of his earlier bouts, and there's just not a lot to like there outside of the name value. But to his credit, he got in phenomenal shape against Jake Paul. He became the first sort of non-traditional Jake Paul opponent in that fight from the standpoint that was actually somebody the same size with probably the same amount of boxing experience. But what I was most surprised with, Tommy Fury just stuck to the absolute basics and won that fight. It was really just all about the jab. He knew when to hold at the right time. He was physically strong enough that Jake couldn't throw him around. And it was kind of weird that that turned out to be a surprise, a little bit of an upset there with the split decision win. In theory, if we're going to judge him on that performance, he should win against Darren Till. And what will the fight look like? It'll not live up to the build, right? And there's no chance it could up to this point. They definitely got us interested, but maybe we don't really actually know who Tommy Fury is. How seriously is he taking his boxing? If he plays his cards right, he should win this fight without problem, just for the size and technique factor. And remember, Tommy's largely a cruiserweight in boxing. Darren Till is going to have the same disadvantage a lot of Jake Paul opponents have when they come from MMA, in which they're sort of naturally 2 divisions smaller than him, or more at times. So it should be a Tommy Fury win. He should be motivated knowing that a Jake rematch is big money and kind of matters right now if you're following the career arc of Jake and how we sort of react to this weird Tyson fight and the fallout of it. But yeah, as much as I think I kind of know what's going to happen, Darren Till's already surprised me with his antics at the press conference. Maybe he surprises us with his increased evolution and ability, because it's not like Tommy's out there doing technical stuff that no one's ever seen before. Let's be fair about that.
Is Darren Till the savior that we never thought we had in MMA? Like, let's say he goes out there, beats Tommy Fury. Could he be the guy to beat Jake Paul? Who would have thought potentially Darren Till? Does he have what it takes? Or is Jake Paul just it's just too hard to solve that puzzle for a guy like Darren Till?
Well, I think Darren Till, even though he has previously competed in the welterweight division in MMA, which is 170, which fits into that sort of argument I make a lot that most of Jake's opponents have been, multiple divisions smaller. Well, he did fight a good stretch at 185, and that's basically close enough to cruiserweight weight as it is. So maybe I'm overestimating a potential size disadvantage that Till would have. Now, look, he's got to clear this big hurdle first in Tommy Fury and actually prove to us that he can box a little bit. But I think from his demeanor, his badass personality, the fact that he's still young-ish enough, if he does beat Fury, then you're upping the ante, and you're basically saying, okay, a lot of people are at the point now where they just want to see Jake Paul lose. If Jake Paul stays in this lane of fighting novice ex-MMA guys, this might be the livest body we've seen up to this point in a Jake Paul format under that setting. So yes, I wonder if Darren Till is better than we would think he is in boxing. We know he's got big balls. We know he can lead a promotion here in his antics and how he does it. It kind of would be interesting to see him as a B-side to Jake Paul, but he's got to go out there and improve it first. He's not going to get it off of a loss to Tommy Fury.
Yeah, there's a lot to happen first. I got to ask, man, like, while we're talking about these wacky boxing matchups, how you feeling? How you feeling about the aftermath of this whole Mike Tyson, Jake Paul thing, man? Because, look, it did great views. I see people like Errol Hawani, they're talking about, how, people should appreciate it. And, people that talk down to it aren't real boxing fans. And, I love Errol, and he's done a lot for me, but I can't disagree with him more. Like, for me, I feel a little dirty still after watching it. I know the people that I've spoken to, just regular fans that don't even really know that I do this, potentially talking about how much of a waste of time it was, how they felt crap after it. Like empty cubs is what Luke Thomas kind of mentioned it. I still feel it, man. Like I don't know. I feel gross about it in some kind of capacity. How you feeling about it?
Before you said all that, the word I was going to use to answer was exactly that, gross. That was the first word that came to my mind. And I really want people to understand, I'm coming at this, even though I just talked about Darren Till and a potential Jake Paul fight, and I can live in that lane of the crossover, ridiculous old guy carnival circus fight. I ate at gas stations growing up. I got that gene in my brain that I'm trying to get rid of. This, to me, though, was the true jumping the shark of the Jake Paul experience. And I do have to lean on my foundation as a boxing fan first, the sport I prefer in the combat realm, the sport that has the most black eyes and ass pimples, speaking of Mike Tyson, of any other sport, that makes it really hard to protect it. But why am I so mad during the aftermath of this, and so mad at the people publicly that are standing up against it, the people that are saying, BC, you can't be this stupid. What did you expect from a 58-year-old? What did you blah, blah, blah? Guys, if this was an exhibition, I would say nothing but for me, it was a waste of time. And for me, who wants to see Jake Paul after this? This is just shit. Okay. It wasn't an exhibition. Mike Tyson was the one that pushed for this to be a real fight. There has to be a line, even in boxing, where the ridiculous is welcomed and happens all the time. And there's always the threat of conspiracy or corruption or something going on. There still needs to be a line between what I consider an exhibition, which is a mixture of real and a mixture of pro wrestling, like the Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva boxing rematch. Complete. It's a dance. It was pro wrestling. It was the two of them making money and going on tour together. I know that there's old guy exhibitions that have a little bit of both. If this was an exhibition, then they can do whatever they want. But because it wasn't, and because it commanded this much attention of the people that boxing needs once a year or every couple of years to come out of the woodwork and pull out their wallet when a super important crossover fight hits the sniff test, right? Spence Crawford, Mayweather, Pacquiao, Fury, Usyk, whatever you want to say to whatever it is that wakes them up. You want them to see something that's being presented as what it is. This was presented to us as a real fight. Did I want to see Mike Tyson battered and knocked out cold? Obviously not. Did I think that Mike was going to look great at his age? Hell no. But if I'm going to get caught up in the pro wrestling build and the fanfare of the slap and Jake yelling, I'm going to fuck him up, Ariel, and all this other stuff around it, this, Ariel saying, I've never seen that look in Mike's eyes before. If I'm going to get caught up and be part of that circus willingly, and it's being presented as a real fight, which means people are betting on it. It was the most bet fight in combat sports history, and people are paying exorbitant ticket prices and traveling there. And you're telling them it's a real fight, and then it's not. That's where I got issue. That's where I don't think we can turn the page and just be like, well, what do you expect? Or, well, it's kind of fun, or whatever your response is. And I hear people going, well, like you said, you're probably not a boxing fan if you're against this. No, it's the boxing fans that should be against this. And it's not for the reasons you think. It's not because I expected 1988 Mike Tyson to walk out there. I didn't. I did expect these two guys to try to win, exchange punches, and I thought it would probably be over in 1.5 or 2 rounds. Did I think Jake would have some level of mercy on Mike? Of course. I also thought once they started exchanging punches, knockdowns would happen. The referee would probably step in pretty quickly if Mike went down a couple times. And even if he was old and couldn't stand or couldn't walk, at least we'd find out. Because that's ultimately why we tuned in, because we had to find out. So don't tell me just because it wasn't a pay-per-view and boxing fans didn't have to pay for it, that it's okay that it was pro wrestling in the end. It's not okay. We paid for it in our time and care level. And I think as a boxing guy, we paid for it in exposing people to what the sport really could be. Now, good news, Taylor Serrano 2 was amazing and badass, and 75 million people watched it live, reportedly. But those same people also watched Tyson and Paul basically agree to make a lot of money together without really trying. And I got a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, man. And also, like, will it be... This is the thing, like, when McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather, for example, we knew, a part of that fight was potentially, maybe Floyd let it go a little longer, but people really had a great experience with that, and they couldn't wait to see what's next. After this, how many people are going to tune into another, boxing event? Like, how many people that don't watch boxing are going to be like, you know what, this is crap? And even, like, with the Serrano-Taylor fight being amazing, the decision that you tweeted out there as well with Serrano and all that. Like, come on, guys, like, you're on the big scene here. Let's make the most of it. It just leaves a sour taste in people's mouths.
One more thing. The fact that Jake came out publicly and said, yeah, I carried him. None of his punches hurt me at all. And then the fact that Mike tweeted out, hey guys, I almost died and needed 6 transfusions and all this stuff and lost 26 pounds, which tells you this fight never should have happened. And I think it also tells you they all knew this and they were all in on this together. So look, I'm not believing in this contract that said there's no uppercuts. That's all tinfoil hat bullshit. These two guys did not try to fight each other. That's the issue. They admitted it. They showed their cards. They basically said, we won. We fooled you. If it's an exhibition, that's okay, because that's basically pro wrestling. It's a real fight.
They can't do this. Surely they can't do this Logan Paul, Mike Tyson thing, right? They're not going to do this, are they?
I hope it's WWE related if they are. I've heard rumors in that direction, but no, Mike cannot be in any form of a real fight again. Look, if people care about him having exhibitions against anyone, fine, go ahead. But it's all going to decline quickly and go downhill fast. Basically, this was Mike's like cosplay, nostalgia, romanticized. Let me go back and, right the wrong and of how his career actually ended. And people did give him respect for getting in that level of shape. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but I think Tyson should be just as ashamed as Jake is in this instance. And I can't even believe people think that like Jake couldn't touch him and couldn't hurt him. They didn't try, guys. Watch the slow it down. Watch the replay. It was BS.
Yeah. If you're Tyson, it's like, I understand what you're saying. You want your kids to watch you, and you made it to the end of the fight, and he took a couple of punches, man, and his reactions, and it was tough to watch. For me personally, I don't know. It's like, dude, Tyson, you have this great legacy. Like, people are kind of, and it's almost like, hey, Santa Claus isn't real, kids. 58, he's 58. You know what I mean? And for a lot of us, I was talking to someone from work, for example, and they said, I just look like an older man getting battered at times. Like, is that what we want to remember, Mike? Like, you had 100 whatever million people. Like, is that what we want people to remember Tyson for? Like, it's
well, we don't, but it's like, is this better? Is it better that we remember that they danced around and kind of stole a bunch of money? Like, am I being too harsh? I don't know. Like, I didn't see a fight in there. So if Jake washes him in a half a round, then guys, we can't complain after, because we signed up for a fight with a 58-year-old man. But for Mike to reveal he had that serious of health issues, Texas, which already in a history of combat sports sanctioning needs to be ashamed of themselves. They really need to be ashamed of themselves. And I don't want to take away from what Netflix did, from what MVP did, but maybe we should take away from what Netflix did, because you had streaming issues to the point where I'm trying to do my job live blogging, and I've got to call up illegal streams because my phone, my laptop, and my TV are buffering all at the same time. What do you want me to do here?
Oh, God. All right. Well, let's quickly. We're still in the aftermath of UFC 309 as well. Stipe goes out there. I mean, retires, but, he has his last fight against John Jones, and Jones finishes him with that impressive kick. We all knew it was going to happen, but it was nice to see Jones back in there. Tom Aspinall said he met with the brass, and apparently there's some plans underway. What could these plans be, BC? Like, no way is the UFC offering John Jones the money that he wants straight away in the back, right? Like, we know Dana White, Gator don't play that shit. So what exactly is Tom Aspinall being promised right now?
I wonder if he's being promised the thing that they're going to build this stage, meaning build to this fight. And you've already got Dana, by the way, publicly, whether it has any chance to be true or not, saying, as he did at the 309 post-fight press conference, that not only will this be the biggest heavyweight fight we've ever done, this has potential to be the biggest fight we've ever done. Why would he do that? Well, I think it's the same reason why he's been going out of his way at every single turn, every time there's a microphone in front of him, to say John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time, which we all agree with, but also that he's the pound for pound king, which for the right reasons we don't. I think it's because they feel like if they can build this foundation and make this have potential to be a super fight. And I think that even means going to the level of a stadium. I know Dana continues to say it's not the fan experience he wants. He can't control everything in that. He doesn't want to do it. But it is a different era for UFC with different bosses who seem to be into different things, and those different things exclusively seem to be making as much money as possible at every given time. So what if you build this and you say, whether it's Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, or how about Wembley Stadium in UK, that we're going to do it and make this a spectacle? And what if, okay, maybe they're not willing to give John Jones Deontay Wilder money, as he used to say back in the day, meaning, 20 to 30 million. But what's the middle ground number that John would accept? And what if they say, look, John, you take this fight, which we think you can win, by the way. We'll give you a record payday, something that you've never made before, even thought about. And we promise you'll get Poatan next in the real super fight, dream fight ending that you want for your career. I don't know. Maybe that's enough if you take into account everything that's been done to puff up John. John's very sensitive right now. I'm not saying this to be a John hater or to rag on him, but his response throughout fight week, even with part of it being a public negotiation ploy, his response during fight week and after to how willingly he is to openly tell us that he wants nothing to do with Aspinall, which is the worst look possible for a guy that we're equally calling the greatest of all time, and he has earned that and deserves that. I think they are doing the right thing to try to build him up, make him feel happy to be back, active, have everyone applauding him and applauding him, when obviously the reality is you got to water down that performance to some degree. John was well-rounded. He looked great. But what do we really know against that version of Stipe, who hadn't fought in forever, moved slowly even before getting taken down and battered with elbows, and didn't seem to really be in any form of danger or rhythm? That's why Dana came right out and said, F all you guys in the media. If John's not number one after this, you guys can all whatever. It's because I think they're trying to build that foundation for John where he's basically like, how could I walk away from this? I think there's a middle ground number that they're going to be willing to throw. And if they try to make this their biggest fight ever and do some old school promotion and really put it out there and make it a thing, maybe you can say to John, you have a chance to potentially, be in the biggest fight we've ever done. Take this giant bag. We'll give you Poatan next. I'll wonder if that's what Aspinall's talking about, because the amount of glazing that's being done to Jones, whether he deserves some of it or part of it or none at all, can only really explain that. They want his star power. They want his legendary status to be active. And ultimately, like any great promoter, they want him to put over the next generation. This is a crossroads matchup with historic elements attached to it. The one thing John did great by sort of soiling his reputation and how he talked about Aspinall was made us want this fight even more. If they build it, all the people are going to come. It's going to be a crossover fight, something they really don't do anymore. Wake up those casuals. This could be that fight. I don't know if John's going to walk away from that if the money is close enough. We'll find out.
It'll be like an MMA field of dreams, just ghosts, MMA ghosts speaking to him. Dude, I just got to quickly say, with Stipe, I kind of feel bad for him. You and me have been with him through his career. Like, I was here with Casper through all his like Australia fights, the Mark Hunt stuff. We've spoken to him heaps. And it's like, I almost felt like he was held ransom to do this fight, right? Like, you're not going to say no to whatever, like the $4 million, like it's probably his career payday. He wants to make sure his family's well off. We knew he was compromised. Like, he could barely walk at that event, like not long ago. He didn't look amazing in there. And after the fight, he was basically relieved to be done. Like, he was like, I'm done and I'm out of here. And it's one of those things where you're happy that he's able to look after his family, but like legacy wise, it's not the greatest sort of place to finish it on. What does Stipe mean to you personally? Because I feel like he deserves a little bit of love after everything that he's done. He wanted to look after his family. He wanted to make sure he got the bag on the way out, but kind of hurt the steam a little bit on the way out too.
Dude, he didn't even get a video package. I mean, Michelle Watson got more than he got. Carlos Esparza got more than he got. And what are we talking about here? We're talking about the most accomplished heavyweight in UFC history. And we're talking about like maybe one of the 15 greatest fighters we've ever seen, especially in terms of accomplishments, and him with the 2 title reigns, the 4 title defenses, which is not an easy thing to do at heavyweight with how much flip-flop and turnover there's been. 2 wins over Daniel Cormier. The only other person to win once is John Jones. Well, technically twice, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And on top of that, had a murderer's row run, one after another, of former champions or Overeem type guys who are more or less former champions, even though he never won it in UFC. So what should I say about him? What will I remember about him? The most honest fighter I've ever covered. He was never a great interview. He was never going to be somebody that the UFC could go crazy and promote. And they tried back in those days. I remember being at ESPN. They'd bring him in on car washes. They'd try everything. But really, he was salt of the earth. He was one of us. He's blue collar. He told me last week he was going to be back at the firehouse, win or lose against Jones 3 days later. No questions asked. That's what he does. So something that I used to be annoyed by, which was his inability to give you a good soundbite in an interview or really act like he cared, really was his superpower in the end. That guy does not give a flying crap about Twitter chatter, about what Dana White thinks about him, right? Stipe to a large degree has like held out. Or that's why he's had such long layoffs at the tail end of his career. He held out for what he wanted, which turned out to be the Cormier trilogy and this big bag with John that they allowed to delay an additional year. But he handled himself well business-wise. He doesn't care at all about the other side of the sport, maybe to his detriment financially, but in the long run, what did he prove to us in the cage? That really he had the kind of heart and resolve and well-rounded game that we would wish any champion to have. He just didn't have the trash talking or even the ability to speak in complete sentences that made a ton of sense. And I don't mean that as, he just had that, he had that ability to speak really fast and the words ran together and it was sort of like a lazy tick. But he didn't care about that. If you actually see him loose and fun when he's around his family or at the UFC countdown cameras are on him or the embedded, he's hilarious. He's a regular dude who just happened to be superhuman in his ability to take punishment, his ability in fights to make adjustments with his IQ and come over the top and win. I give him so much respect for that rematch against Cormier and how he was able to dig deep and win that, how he was able to come through in big moments like against Virginia. I mean, it just, his clutch gene, his everything, it'll always be underrated. It'll always age like a fine wine because we put sometimes too much stock in your ability to create lasting sound bites and be this lovable, marketable guy. But I think if you asked yourself, like, whose career would I want? What reputation would I prefer to have? I'd put Stipe's accomplishments and how we think of him up against anybody, because it was honest, humble, hardworking, constantly improving his game, never gassed out except for the first loss to JDS where he learned a huge lesson in that close 5-round fight. And what did he do? It came back and destroyed him in the rematch, and he went on to that great run. He closed all the holes in his game. He was great late in his career, in his late 30s. I got nothing bad to say about him. He beat the game. He's going to walk away on his own terms, but yet he loves his community and service so much. He's going to stay a full-time firefighter. Shout out to him. He never gave in. He never gave in to all this crap that sometimes gets in the way in fighting. He stuck true to family, hard work, and he'll reap the benefits of it, hopefully financially, for years to come in these big fights that he closed his career with. I don't love that this fight happened. I don't love the way the UFC set it up or handled it, but I do love me some Stipe, and I wish him well on the way out.
Quick break to thank MANSCAPED and NORDVPN and SAILY for bringing you these programs here today. I want to talk about MANSCAPED first. What? Boom! The Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver is here. It is the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver is your go-to for precision and style every time. Head over to manscaped.com and join over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code word submission for 20% off and free shipping now. And what makes the Chairman Pro so special? Well, what about the Skin Safe blade heads? Skin Safe full blade foil for that close, smooth shave when you're looking to go completely clean. And clean shave isn't your style? That's okay. Just switch to the Skin Safe stubble trimmer to keep your stubble looking sharp and polished. Both heads are designed with the Skin Safe technology to help reduce razor burn and irritation so your skin feels smooth and comfortable after every single shave. Go to Manscaped right now and use the code word submission. You can use it across the whole website. The Chairman Pro, you can get the Lawnmower 5.0, what about the Beard Hedger, all sorts of great products, 20% off, and you're helping the program, and you get free shipping. That's at Manscaped right now. I also want to welcome SAILY to Submission Radio. What is SAILY? This thing is an absolute game changer. It is a new eSIM service app brought to you by Nord Security, where you can choose several affordable eSIM plans over 160 countries and 8 regions. With SAILY eSIM, you'll always have a connection when needed. If you've ever been lost abroad or badly needed an internet connection with no Wi-Fi spot in sight, you'll understand what a difference a local SIM card can make. An eSIM provides the internet connection wherever you travel and saves you money on roaming fees. All you got to do is have a look at this. You just download the app. Here I am here. I want to travel to Thailand, so I choose that, and boom, it's that simple. All you guys got to do is download the app, go through the prompts, and you guys are sorted. Global and regional plans. You save time. You don't have to wait in line at airports to get a local SIM card. You stay connected. No more wandering around looking for public Wi-Fi. All SAILY eSIM plans are compatible for iOS and Android devices. So what are you waiting for? Download the SAILY app now. Use the code SUBMISSION or click the link in the description. SAILY.com/submission to get an exclusive 15% off and travel in style with SAILY this festive season. And by the way, guys, while you're traveling in style, why not jump on NORDVPN as well? There's exclusive deals right now for Black Friday for all Submission Radio listeners, where you get massive savings plus 4 months extra. That's 4 months extra, and you get that 30-day money-back guarantee. So why not try it today and see the NORDVPN difference? And don't forget, you can use one NORDVPN account across 10 devices with one single VPN subscription. Don't forget, you can get cheaper prices on things like pay-per-views, airlines, product, all sorts of things, online subscriptions. NORDVPN has you covered. Jump on today and go to NORDVPN/submission or click the link in the description below. Get that big saving 4-month extra for free thanks to the Black Friday exclusive deal, and jump on now before it's gone. That's NordVPN.com. And now back to the program. That's right, man. He's a realist of the real. And in this time when people are going around talking shit and creating fake news or whatever, like, again, very hard guy to interview, but behind the scenes and in life, the realist of the real. So wishing him all the best. Just quickly, man, Tom Aspinall said John Jones looked slow out there. Sort of made the point that, in there, his speed would really make the difference. Early pick, who you lean towards. Who do you think wins between Tom and John?
I think the biggest disservice we've had in John's heavyweight run, which had a 3-year wait to get to it, was who he fought and what we learned from those fights. And I don't mean to rip on John's performance in the Stipe fight. He was a complete heavyweight and he brought new wrinkles to his game, and you can tell he took seriously the time off, and he turned around, by the way, an 18-month layoff and a serious recovery from surgery like nothing. But you got to be realistic about what version of Stipe he faced and some of the ticks that John did show. Remember, he had such a huge reach advantage at light heavyweight. With that kind of getting closed up and with the power that guys have at heavyweight, I didn't necessarily love his reaction a lot.
Yeah, like Stipe, even though Stipe was like very one-sided, Stipe got in there and he was able to land and he was able to close the distance very easily.
Flat-footed, throwing almost arm punches, he's able to land, and John was not looking great in that regard. And obviously the Cyril Gane fight didn't give us, against a more, live body, it really didn't give us anything outside of John's commitment to evolving his game and how good he is on the ground. And look, he took down Stipe with ease, elbowed the crap out of him. He couldn't have better people in his corner than Gable Steveson for wrestling, or Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan for jiu-jitsu. So look, John is awesome. His ability to stay at this level this late with so many layoffs and setbacks is the true testament to who he is. It's why he was able to dig deep in his closest fights, like the first Gustafsson one when he was partying all week. But my early read is that Aspinall, even for the things we don't know about him, which is what we don't know about Aspinall, is what really makes this fight so great, in my opinion, because I'm about to tell you that right now my read is that Aspinall gets to John's chin and really makes it a type of fight John doesn't want early and potentially could knock him out. And I think John knows that. And I think that's a big part of why John is playing so hard to get, even though he's trying to negotiate a higher price. He's showing, there's some tells that he's showing us that I don't love to see for a guy that I respect his game so much and think he's going to have a great shot against any heavyweight. John could win this fight. There's areas he can expose Aspinall on the ground, areas where Aspinall's never even been past the second round, right? So there's a lot that John could do. I think that's why we have to do this fight. And you better believe it, if John wins, we will give him not just the flowers he deserves, we'll give him all the flowers, because this is what fighters in his spot should do. If you're going to stay active and you're going to wear that belt, then fight the next guy in line. And the UFC did you a favor, John, by letting this fight with Stipe linger an additional year and a half. So I think it's to some degree, unless he was going to retire Saturday night, which he didn't, and he could have, and it would have been fine, but he didn't. You got to take this fight, but you got to favor Tom right now. And it's the fact that we don't know everything about Tom. I mean, I love it. I love when guys get to the title level, to the super fight level. Think Conor, right? When he got there against Aldo and some of those fights where we still didn't know what Conor would look like over 5 rounds or against a wrestler. That only adds to the intrigue. I cannot wait to see if John can make those adjustments to where he can make Tom look average or look regular or be pinned down on the ground? Let's find out, John. Let's find out. They're going to make sure you get paid. Let's find out.
Yeah, Tom's actually incredibly difficult to figure out because who do you even get to mimic him, right? Like his movement and the fact that there's no tape really on him, it actually makes John kind of almost face himself back in the day where people are like, how do you figure this guy out? Just quickly, BC, before we wrap up, middleweight is going through an interesting transition right now. Had DDP on the program just a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I don't even know if I'm fighting in Perth. I don't know if I'm fighting in Las Vegas. I don't know who I'm fighting. So I want to get your thoughts on the division just quickly. Let me just share the screen with you for just a second as I open up the rankings here at middleweight. So right now, if it was up to you, BC, obviously we've got DDP up here, right? If you were to book it, who do you think is going to fight next for the title? Do you believe it's still Sean Strickland potentially in March, or do you believe Khamzat is now going to replace Strickland in this position?
I believe it's going to be Khamzat, and I actually agree with it. So first and foremost, middleweight is sexy and red hot. I predicted this year at the start that it could be the division that just grabs our heart and attention because of how much drama there is among the key players on top and the aging ex-champions like Adesanya and Whitaker still in the mix, and we saw what happened. But Chimaev has been that bolt of lightning and that guy that has true pay-per-view potential as not just like a B-side villain, but as an A-side killer, and has always had that. But the journey to get here has been wild. Don't forget he had back-to-back COVID battles and retired publicly on Twitter until Ramzan Kadyrov was like, no, you're not retired. You'll be just fine. I just feel like what he did to Whitaker, how dominant, how quickly, you've got to not only take that serious and reward it. And it's not a knock against Strickland, who it wouldn't be the end of the world if he got the next title shot. He fought so well in that first fight and just barely lost. But you never know with Chimaev, that weird weight miss against Nate Diaz, the constant injuries and illness that pulled him out of big fights. You never know. Like, I thought at this point he would have already fought for the welterweight and middleweight title, and yet here we are. I think if you're the UFC and what he just did against Whitaker and how people reacted to that, you say, sorry, Sean, but you're going to have rematch Izzy next. Now, I know that doesn't appear to be the direction they're going. It looks like Izzy has a different fight. That probably would have been a sexier, better way to go. But either way, it has to be Chimaev next, and I think it gives them a huge chance to continue to book this division in red hot, sexy fashion, because it's not just those big names rotating on top, but you've got an interesting amount of guys that are on the come up behind them. Bo Nickel, who did seem to take a weird sort of step back over the weekend despite winning, is sort of in that mix. Joe Pyfer, like they're recharging at the same time when they already have 4 or 5 stud names on top that I don't know who's going to be the champion next year, but I'd like to see Chimaev get that crack. And dude, if he plays his A game and he's able to go downhill, he may even do that same thing to the champion. And that's a scary thought.
Really? You think so, BC? You think he could do that against
I think it's
Master
possible.
of the Diamond Cutter DDP?
I'm not saying I'd predict it, but to see the success Whitaker had, I mean, I know that DDP is a different physical animal in that regard. But again, that's why it's such a sexy matchup, because we need to find out who Chimaev is over 5 crazy rounds in an action fight, because we got this weird memory of why the Gilbert Burns fight was so crazy and should it have been. But the thing about having somebody with such a strong A game, I never thought he could do that to Whitaker. And then he did it, Chimaev. So it's like all bets are off. He may be able to do that against everyone. We got to find out.
Yeah, no, and I'm supposed to speak to Rob. He's just gone on holiday, so I want to find out exactly what's going on with him as well. And what I love about it really is that DDP wants Khamzat too, so he wants a toughest matchup. All right, so we've got DDP and Khamzat in this booking. Sean Strickland is here. Obviously, Israel's fighting someone else. He's fighting Imavov. So those two are fighting each other. If you're Sean Strickland right now, what do you do with him? If you were to book it, are you going Caio Borralho for Sean Strickland next?
You might have to, because it is the right step up for Caio. It's a big step up, really. The former champion level, the technical level that he'd have to, you know what? You probably should do that. Now, is that fair to Strickland? Should he have to pass one more test? I thought the Izzy fight, the rematch would have been perfect on so many levels. We're going to go the route of Imavov. Yeah, I think that's probably the right move, but I also think Sean should be given the potential opportunity to just wait. as
Just wait.
well as a
He's a good
former champion.
matchup. He's a big name. Money in the bank. Him and
Indeed.
Hamzat is money. Him and DDP is money.
I mean, sometimes you got to be a businessman in this game. Like Shavkat Rakhmonov is acting like the dude where he lost the title shot. He's like, yeah, I'll take a number one contender shot against, the unbeaten guy who's making noise in Ian Gary. And for Shavkat, you probably believe you're going to put a knife through the heart of every fighter anyway. So who cares? And then hopefully you can skin them and wear them on your attire on your next walkout, which he seems to love to do too, which is why he's so awesome. But no, I don't think everyone should do that or be willing to do that. And I think Strickland, for as eccentric and crazy as he's been, is actually a really smart guy and is, learned the business quickly enough that I think he may end up just choosing to sit and wait.
Yep. So it's interesting. So if we go back to the rankings here, so Sean Strickland, he'll be waiting. Now, Kaya Bahaya, I thought him and Israel would have been a great fight. This Imavov fight, it's still a fun one, but yeah, the Kaya one could have been fun. If you're Kaya Bahaya right now, you don't get Sean Strickland. Obviously, you don't get Izzy. Is Robert Whittaker the next guy for Kaya, in your opinion, when he recovers?
In theory, yes, because it's the aging former champion with a couple losses recently coming down. But dude, I'm not ready for Robert Whittaker to be in that spot. It's hard not to be a fan of that man and what he's represented and what he brings. And I thought he beat Izzy in the rematch, but nobody seems to care all these years later. But the truth is he's gotten run over by two of the elite guys in this division. So it's probably where he's at. It'd be hard for him to author another run, but I can't put it past him because he is about that life and he has that skill set. But wasn't it now that we can look back, it was shocking to see it happen twice to him where it was just run the hell over.
Well, it's hard, BC, because in DDP, right, he wasn't 100%. We all knew it. He had knee issues. Yeah. He probably shouldn't have taken that fight. And then this whole the teeth thing, obviously, like, all credit to Hamzat. He's the one who did it, but he had some really bad issues in that area. You know what I mean? So it's like still questions there. I got a chance to watch him spar Jai Opatai here in Sydney. Yeah, he did.
Tell me about that, please.
Closed session. Yep, they did 2 rounds, and he was able to land a couple of decent shots on man. And Jai, he's the best probably boxer now coming out of Aussie. So he looks good. But I don't know, man. If it's not Kaya Bahaya, who would you give him? You reckon Sean Strickland if he does have to fight again? Like, who would you give him?
I wouldn't be against giving Whittaker the rare sort of get well fight, put him in a fight night main event against, a mid-level guy or maybe a name who's older and on the way out. It really, that's what I'm saying. If they feel like they can make
who do we have here for him?
It's like if they feel they can make a run with him again or use him in a key spot in the future against a riser, then maybe you see him in a softer matchup here. But just the same, they could throw him in there against a young killer on the way up. It's interesting.
Yeah, and if you look through the division right here, man, it's like, you Apollo Costas, all the guys that sort of fallen out. The other guy here is Shara Bullet, but surely you don't put him up that quickly against Robert Whittaker.
How about Brendan Allen? How about that for Whittaker?
That would be good. I think he might be booked, but I think if he wasn't, that's a great fight. So, okay, so there we go. The middleweight division looking good. As we finish up, final question from me. UFC 312 here in here in Sydney in Australia. Bit of a shakeup, right? So it looks like DDP probably isn't actually going to fight in Sydney now. It looks like he might be fighting in March. Alex Volkanovski, he ain't fighting Diego Lopez just for nothing. I think he'll probably be waiting till later down the track. Just spoke to Dan Hooker just 2 days ago. He's waiting for the birth of his new baby. Congratulations to him and Izzy. He ain't fighting in February. He said that's going to be later on. What are we doing in Sydney, man? Who are we putting up there? JDM and Usman, maybe they're floating around for a co-main. What do you do?
They got issues right now, and we know this, right? This has been a weird year for matchmaking. They've done pretty damn well when it comes to like main events and big time cards, although Poatan really had to build them out a lot. But we've seen them scramble and nothing against Pantoja, but we're seeing them get 2 pay-per-view main events this calendar year. It's kind of wild. I really thought Izzy would have been perfect to protect him and keep him on that card. And imagine Izzy Strickland 2 on that card. I mean, I don't know where they go now. It's really interesting because I'm never against the floating of an unnecessary interim title, But do you float an unnecessary interim title just to get Volkanovski on the card against Diego Lopez there? Is that the right move?
What do you think?
Probably.
You think you do it? You do it? But how can you do that, man? How can you do that?
They've done it before.
Tapura's like there.
I know, but remember UFC 236 in Atlanta? Remember when Izzy Gastelum and Max versus Dustin 2? And we all said, man, those are two completely unnecessary interim titles being floated in when the champions are alive and well. And what happened? The greatest back-to-back main co-main all-action affair where all four guys fought like it was life or death. That's what happened, so
and it's a great fight, though. It's a great fight. No one's going to be angry at this being made, right? Like, it's not one of those, hey, this guy's getting screwed situations.
But isn't it interesting how often we're sort of running out of options lately, or they are sort of running out of options? And I guess it's just the reality of having so many fight cards to fill out. Maybe there's an argument to be made there at this modern era. They're not attempting to build individual stars as aggressively. We don't see press tours. We don't see things like we used to in this era where it's all about minimizing costs so you can raise the prices on everything. I just really hope that the UFC isn't due for a reckoning soon due to how crazy high the ticket prices are, how much the reports are that the tickets are moving so slowly in Vegas for the upcoming pay-per-view in December. I don't know. I feel like more than ever now, there's mental math that needs to go on in the matchmaking room to try to figure out like who actually is main event worthy. Who are we not thinking of? I mean, Max Holloway's not going to turn around quickly and defend that BMF title after what happened to Topuria. So I don't really know what they do. Maybe you get Weili Zhang in there. Maybe you got to figure it out. I mean, you think Makhachev's probably going to headline the January card in LA, then you're running out of options quick.
Yeah. I feel like it's like Weili, main event, JDM, Usman, co-main, but you know what I mean? Like, guys, this isn't the card that we thought it was going to be. Interesting that they booked Izzy as well over in Saudi, but I mean, that makes sense with the money. All right, couple of comments from fans before we wrap up. First off, Strike MX, please ask BC to stop taking his shoes off on airplanes. BC, you care to respond to this?
So I do that, when I got a long, West Coast flight and it's, 5 hours, I don't think there's something wrong with that. Now, is there an odor that can be put out there? Maybe, but it's not like I'm leaving bare feet. Now, I used to go with no socks and slip-on shoes and bare feet. And I will say that was foul of me to remove those. But if I've got socks on, let me cook under that seat. All right. There's no room there anyway. Let me be as comfortable as possible.
Like, remember the Titans, let the boys play. Final one.
Oh, wow.
People knew you were coming on the program.
Wow.
Got you a little confused, but then put it all together. What do you think of this image?
Yeah, well, that man is well armed. So I am, that's a tribute. Okay. I
think they misread it. I think they thought I added an extra B, but maybe I did in my mind.
They do call me the BBC though, the beige Brian Campbell. So there you go.
Okay, great. I thought you had a lot of UK fans over there. You got some MK over there on BBC. All right, guys. As we wrap up, make sure to subscribe to Brian Campbell's channel. What's coming up, man? What can people get their teeth sunken into? Of course, you and LT. Best show out there, Morning Combat as well.
Thank you. Morning Combat every Monday and Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube. The Brian Campbell Experience, real original name, but it's a YouTube channel where I get to talk my shit. So every Wednesday, I'll hit you up with a live chat at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss the weekly Inside the Box show with me, Rafe Bartholomew, and a lot of laughs looking at the ridiculous and amazing sport of boxing. So fun interviews and a lot of weird stuff in between, but I guess I'm a YouTube content creator now. Aren't we all? I guess we've always been, right?
Appreciate you, Brian. Thank you, man.